Immigration Studies put out that lays out a complex web of organizations that were moving people into our country, knowing that they're dangerous, knowing that they're criminal, associated with taxpayer dollars flowing through the United Nations and donor dollars flowing through organizations, including ostensibly religious ones, putting these dangerous individuals on the street. That resulted in fentanyl in our communities, that resulted in the death of Jocelyn Nungare, of hundreds, thousands even, as the director testified, 100,000 people dying from these narcotics every year. All of this in an organized effort, a complete effort by the radical left to use taxpayer dollars and these dollars to put people on our streets. In addition, the extent to which we've seen now with the Southern Poverty Law Center and their hate map targeting, for example, the Family Research Council, where we had a shooting right here in DC over a decade ago, putting Charlie Kirk, putting a target on TPUSA, Antifa, other radical organizations that are very specifically organized in targeting conservatives and ordinary Americans. Well, how about the organized effort to infiltrate our schools and advance a transgender agenda and advance a radical agenda, perhaps one that we will see exposed further in the individual that actually shot Charlie Kirk. So here's my question. Will you as the director, and are you as the director, pursuing all legal channels to follow the truth wherever it may lead on this organized effort, one? And two, do you agree that Congress should take all action necessary to expose this web of dollars that are flowing to undermine our way of life? I got another minute in my time that I'd like to hear from you on this topic broadly.
I'll keep it short. Investigatively speaking, we are doing the following. We are following the money. We are following the money in every organization and every person that is violating the federal code. And it doesn't matter what your background or ideology is, we are following the money. We are using legal process to following that money, issuing subpoenas to follow that money, using grand juries to follow that money. And when we have results to recommend for prosecution to the Department of Justice, we will do that. And we will continue to publicize documents through Congress, yes, when we make these findings.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like unanimous consent to insert the record outsourcing justice by the Law Enforcement Legal Defense Fund that I alluded to before. I would ask unanimous consent to add a 2024 list provided by the Center for Immigration Studies on these United Nations and other affiliated groups that are responsible, over 250 of them, for moving individuals into our country in a coordinated effort. I would like a unanimous consent to insert a letter that I sent that currently has 33 members of the United States House of Representatives have signed on it, calling for a special select committee to pursue the organized effort from the radical left to target our way of life and undermine our security by putting criminals on the street and having our borders being wide open and putting us in danger.
Without objection.
With that, I would yield back.
Without objection. Gentleman yields back.
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of unanimous
Gentleman's recognized.
One is a letter from Senator Tom Cotton, dated last year, urging the U.S. to, quote, ensure that data from U.S. companies is not harvested by the Chinese Communist Party through the purchase of Xi'an software and technology.
Without objection.
And also a statement by Marco Rubio, then Senator Marco Rubio, which warned our UK allies about, quote, Xi'an's deep ties to the People's Republic of China.
Without objection.
Also, crime is the record crime is down in 2025. Trump doesn't deserve credit, which demonstrates that the crime rates have been decreasing since 2023, which was published by the Vera Institute. Also, a unanimous consent request to enter into the record a NPR report from July of 2024. GOP vows to make America safe again. Statistics contradict their growing crime claims.
Without objection.
Also, a report out of the American Presidency Project dated January 17, 2025, record low crime during the Biden-Harris administration.
Without objection.
Also, Joe Biden is correct that violent crime is near a 50-year low, which was a PolitiFact publication of May 2024. And last but not least, a FBI releases 2024 reported crimes in the nation statistics. These are FBI statistics published on August 5th, 2025, which details decreases in murder, rape, aggravated assault, and robbery in 2024.
Without objection. Gentleman from Kentucky is recognized for unanimous consent.
Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent to submit two sets of documents. The first is a series of emails from the victims of Jeffrey Epstein. They are making FOIA requests to get their own FBI files and not having any success. So I want to bring attention to that by submitting that to the record. The second document that I want to submit to the record, for the record, I know we don't usually read these. This one's not readable. It's completely redacted for the most part, the first 50 pages. This is actually the search warrant that was served on James O'Keefe for a diary that he had already given to the government 2 months before. And as it turns out, there were no indictments here, yet he still doesn't know why he was raided, and I think he deserves to know. So,
Without objection.
thank you.
The chair now recognizes the gentleman from California.
Director, the first time you saw Donald Trump's name was in the Epstein files. Did you close the files or keep reading?
I have reviewed not the entirety of the files, so I have.
You haven't reviewed all of the Epstein files?
Personally, no.
You're the director of the FBI. This is the largest sex trafficking case the FBI has ever been a part of. Buck stops at the top, and your testimony today is you have not reviewed all of the files.
What I've been doing is been busy providing the safest country this country has seen in modern U.S. history in historic speed, because the men and women of the FBI are given the resources to reduce the homicide rate, to reduce the drug trafficking rate, to reduce the amount of children that are being trafficked, and the number of pedophiles.
It sounds like
that
those
we have
children
arrested
being
is
trafficked would
record high.
appreciate the director reviewing the files. You said you don't know the number of times Trump's name appears in the files, so it could at least be 1,000 times. Is that right?
The number is a total misleading factor. We have not released
number at least
anyone's
be 1,000
name
times?
we have not released anyone's
Could it
name in the
at least
Epstein
be 1,000
files that
times?
has not been credible.
Director,
And
could it at
we have
least be 1,000
released
times?
every piece of legally permissible information.
Okay,
you can
so-
characterize the numbers however you want it.
Claiming my time, Director. It sounds like if you don't know the number, it could at least be 1,000 times. Which
It's not.
leads me-
It's not.
Is it at least 500 times?
No.
Is it at least 100 times?
No.
Then what's the number?
I don't know the number, but it's not that.
Do you think it might be your job to know the number?
My job is to provide for the safety and security of this country. My job is not to engage in political
And that
innuendo
includes protecting
so you can go
sexual
out to the
assault victims.
sticks and get your 20-second hit in your fundraising
reclaiming my
article.
time,
They
Director.
keep going, reclaiming your time, because the
Director,
people of California
If
are
Trump-
being
if the
underserved by
president-
your
If the
representation.
president is not implicated, why not release everything that involves
We
him?
have released everything, the president and anyone else's side, that is credible and lawfully be able to be released. Your fixation on this matter and baseless accusations that I'm hiding
also
child
Mr. Massey's
pedophiles is disgusting.
interest.
Anyone that says that needs to look at the stats alone. And go back to the state of California, who's receiving the biggest surge in
So,
FBI resources through
Director-
my redeployment, because the cities of Los Angeles, San Diego, and San
Reclaiming
Francisco
my time,
need it.
Director. Remembering your oath to tell the truth, did you ever tell Donald Trump his name is in the files?
I have never spoken to President Trump about the Epstein files.
Did you ever tell the Attorney General that Donald Trump's name is in the Epstein files?
The Attorney General and I have had numerous discussions about the entirety of the Epstein files and the reviews conducted by our team.
Did you tell the Attorney General that Donald Trump's name is in the Epstein files?
And we have released where President Trump's
Did you,
name
it's
is in the
a simple
attorney's
question.
file.
Did you tell the Attorney General that the President's name is in the Epstein files?
During many conversations that the Attorney General and I have had on the matter of Epstein, we have reviewed
The question is
painstakingly
simple.
who
Did you
can
tell
be-
the Attorney General that Donald Trump's name is in the Epstein files? Yes or no?
Why don't you try spelling it out if
Yes
you're
or
going to mock
no,
me?
Director?
Use the alphabet.
Yes or no?
No? A, B, C,
Director,
D, E, F?
it
Don't
sounds
wanna
like
do
you don't want to tell us. Did you tell the Attorney General that Donald Trump's name was in the Epstein files?
Why don't you try serving your
Director,
constituency
did
by
you tell the
focusing on
Attorney
reducing
General
violent
that Donald
crime in this
Trump's
country and the number of pedophiles that are
Director,
legally
reclaiming my
harbored in
time,
your
Director.
sanctuary cities in
Director,
California?
reclaiming
I'll
my
work with
time.
you on that. Do
Regular
you want to
order,
work
Mr.
with us
Chairman.
on that?
Director,
Time
reclaiming my
belongs to
time.
the gentleman from California.
Did you tell the Attorney General that Donald Trump's name is in the Epstein files?
Question
Yes or no?
has been asked and answered.
You've not answered it, and we will take your evasiveness as a consciousness of guilt. Director, did Donald Trump ever say to you, just find and release the entire truth? Don't worry if I'm in it.
The instructions from the administration were to release all credible information, and we have done that.
Did Donald Trump ever provide information about Jeffrey Epstein as an informant?
Donald Trump has not been, and I can only speak for the FBI, an informant of the FBI.
So, Director, you've played this cute shell game where you say you can't release everything because the court has said that it legally is not allowed to be released, but the court calls bullshit. Judge Richard Berman said that when you went to the court, quote, information contained in the Epstein grand jury transcripts pales in comparison to Epstein investigation information and materials in the hands of the Department of Justice. So let's move on, Director. You wrote a book called Government Gangsters. You identified 20 individuals in that book. You put me on that list at the top of the list. Thank you. My children find it flattering. 20 of those individuals have been investigated or have had adverse actions. Director, considering that you have identified these people as, quote, government gangsters, will you recuse yourself from making any investigation decisions about these individuals?
Anyone that has been terminated at the FBI has been done so
No, the
because
question
they failed
again.
to meet the muster in their
Director,
constitutional
I will
obligation.
work on the audio-visual capabilities.
I'm
of
going to
this room so
borrow
that you
your
can hear me.
terminology and call
I'm reclaiming
bullshit
my
on your
time.
entire career in
I'm
Congress.
reclaiming my
It has
time,
been a
Director.
disgrace to the American
Director, I'm
people.
reclaiming my
You
time.
can
Will
reclaim your
you
time all
recuse
you
yourself?
want.
Mr.
Chairman, you're going to allow a witness to speak this way?
Mr. Chairman, would you give,
recuse yourself,
The gentleman has no time.
Mr.
to
Chairman, would you
recuse.
admonish the
point of-
witness not to insult members?
The gentleman has no time.
Mr. Chairman,
The
just
committee will remember.
quick point of order. Could the gentleman be extended an additional 20 seconds to complete his thoughts since the witness decided to interrupt him
And
continuously?
then the witness will be able to respond if he wants. We'll make sure
Thank
he has
you.
time to do that.
My question
Gentleman,
is,
continue.
will you, Director, recuse yourself, yes or no, from investigating or making decisions about the 60 individuals, including myself, that you identified as government gangsters? Yes or no?
Time of the gentleman has expired. The witness may respond if he would like.
And the answer was no, as I heard.
Correct.
Okay. The gentleman from Wisconsin, the gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Wisconsin is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Director Patel, for being here today. I wanted to talk a little bit about the assassination of Charlie Kirk and the FBI's subsequent investigation. I know it's really sensitive, and you can make the call as to whether or not, obviously, it's something that you can respond to, but I think it's still fresh on many people's minds. I want to congratulate you and Utah law enforcement for the work you did in identifying the suspect and apprehending him. According to public reports, and I think this is what maybe it's, I still have questions about, and maybe the public does. According to public reports, the alleged shooter arrives on the Utah Valley University campus nearly 4 hours before the shooting. Was that your understanding? Is that kind of?
I'll let the public reports reflect themselves. I don't have the exact timeline.
Okay. So we don't have any idea kind of his prep or how he set up or how he utilized that time when he first showed up on campus?
All of those are being currently investigated through our cell phone analysis and through our witness interviews. And the state of Utah has now announced charges seeking the death penalty against this suspect. So we're a little limited in what we can continue to say.
Sure, I understand. And the suspect, like you referred to, is then captured on security footage jumping off the roof of the alleged shooting location, the Losey Center. Do we have any idea how the suspect got up on the roof in the first place? I think for members of Congress, especially after Butler in Pennsylvania, it's just unimaginable that there could be some type of security breakdown prior to an event of that size where somebody could access a rooftop.
So not commenting on the case, but having gone to the crime scene and walked the steps that we believe were taken, the roof was actually readily accessible through an exterior stairwell, so anyone could have gotten on it.
Okay. The suspect flees on foot to kind of this wooded area where he drops the rifle, wraps it in a towel, and then proceeds to his staged vehicle and basically drives home. So do we have any idea what the towel was about? Was it used later to identify a place where the firearm was left, or do we?
What we can tell you is the towel, there was a screwdriver found on the rooftop, which DNA was collected off of, and the towel was found wrapped around the firearm in question in a wooded area next to the campus. All have been processed for DNA.
And then, according to the suspect's roommate, there were allegedly messages on instant messaging platforms, specifically Discord, suggesting the towel may have been used to identify that weapon's location. So the public reports have suggested that the shooter acted alone. Do we still believe that that's true? Do we have any idea as to whether or not those Discord messages led us to believe that the shooter may have had help in any way or assistance?
I can only speak to the FBI's investigation, and our investigation is ongoing, and we are interviewing any of those individuals involved in that chat and other individuals in the area.
Very good. And so my suggestion, if there are accomplices, I'm sure this is something that the FBI is going to continue to investigate fully and thoroughly into the future.
Yes, sir.
The reason I ask that is because I don't know that that was necessarily the case with Butler, Pennsylvania. So thank you so much for your persistence kind of in this matter. There's still a lot of public questions that need to be asked. Let me shift to another topic very quickly. On July 31st, 2025, the DOJ and the CIA declassified the annex to Special Counsel John Durham's 2023 report on Operation Crossfire Hurricane. The 29-page Durham annex contains previously classified information about, among other things, the investigative referral of the Clinton campaign plan. Why would somebody place documents in a burn bag related to this case?
That case is very much ongoing, so I can't comment on the stylization of the evidence we're collecting.
Can you comment at all on the Durham annex as I described it?
The Durham Annex, which has been publicly released thanks to the FBI's commitment to transparency, is one of the documents that's being utilized. And in general terms, speaking for burn bags, sir, a burn bag is what you use to put classified documents into generally, because that is literally how you destroy them.
So it appears that efforts were made by the Clinton campaign to reach out to the FBI agents or the Clinton sympathizers in the intelligence community in order to lead more credibility to the Clinton campaign plan. Do you think that's an accurate characterization?
Again, I'm not going to characterize that material because it's part of an ongoing investigation.
Thanks for being here today. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from California is recognized.
Thank you, Director Patel, for being here today. The FBI searched Jeffrey Epstein's Manhattan residence, correct?
I believe that happened in 2018. I think there was 2 locations, sir.
It's 2019, and in that residence, the FBI found a safe, correct?
I don't have the catalog of evidence in front of me.
In that residence, the FBI found a safe, correct?
I'll accept your representation.
Okay. And in that safe, the FBI found topless and lewd photographs of girls, correct?
Again, sir, I'll accept your representation. I don't know.
Thank you. It was all over the media at the time. There's a New York Times article that says Jeffrey Epstein is indicted on sex charges as discovery of nude photos is disclosed, dated July 8th, 2019. And the Times reports a trove of lewd photographs of girls was discovered in a safe inside financier Jeffrey Epstein's Manhattan mansion. Author Michael Wolff has conducted numerous interviews of Jeffrey Epstein. I'm going to play for you a video clip of what Michael Wolff said Epstein told him was in the safe and what he showed the author was in this safe. So let's please play that clip now.
Elected. And I was sitting talking to Epstein, and he said, "Wait a minute, I got to show you something." And then he went into his safe, and he came out with photographs. They were Polaroids, I think, and he kind of spread them out like playing cards, and it was Trump. I mean, I think there were a dozen of them, and it was Trump with girls of an uncertain age at Epstein's Palm Beach house where all of the things that he would ultimately be accused of took place. And I remember very vividly 3 of them. There are 2 in which Trump is, the girls, topless girls, are sitting on Trump's lap. And then a 3rd in which he has a stain on the front of his pants. And the girls are kind of pointing at it, sort of bent over, laughing.
So Director Patel, I'm going to ask you a very broad and general question. As you know, Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein were friends. There are, of course, photos showing Donald Trump together with Epstein, correct?
I don't have the entirety of the photographs, but I think they've been photographed in public together.
All right. Are there any photos showing Donald Trump with girls of an uncertain age?
No,
How do you know that?
because that information would have been brought to light by multiple administrations and FBI investigators over the course of the last 20 years.
Well, you know what? That's just not true, because no one knew about the creepy birthday message that Donald Trump wrote to Jeffrey Epstein until the Wall Street Journal disclosed it, and then all of a sudden, the Epstein estate provides it to Congress.
Well,
So certainly, you weren't there at the search. You don't know what Epstein may or may not have done with those photographs even prior to the search. Maybe someone has it. Maybe the Epstein estate has it.
You raise a great point.
So I'm going to ask you, have you asked to talk to Michael Wolff?
You raise a great point. I haven't personally asked to talk to
Has the
Michael
FBI
Wolff,
ask?
but
to
the
interview Michael Wolff?
FBI, I'll get back to you if the FBI specifically
So Michael Wolff
asked
has
ever.
about 100 hours of testimony of Jeffrey Epstein. Wouldn't it be good for the FBI to interview Michael Wolff?
I'm not saying they haven't, I just don't know.
Has FBI subpoenaed the tapes that Michael Wolff has conducted of Jeffrey Epstein?
I don't know.
All right, so if you could provide us an answer, that would be terrific. Well, let me ask you this question then. Have you looked at all the photos in Epstein files?
I have looked at all the information that the investigators who investigated this case have provided to run out credible leads.
And in the Epstein files, was there that creepy birthday message that Donald Trump had written to Epstein?
No, that's what I was trying to tell you. You raise a great point. The estate of Jeffrey Epstein has a voluminous amount of information that they have not released before.
Okay, so that's great. So wouldn't it be great if FBI subpoenaed the estate of Jeffrey Epstein for all that information?
The estate is under no obligation to provide that material, even pursuant to a subpoena. That's a great point.
Yeah, that's just false.
Okay.
That's just false. You're the frickin' FBI. You can subpoena the information from the estate, and you better do that. I'd like to move
literally
on.
not how it works.
I'm going to move on now and talk about Epstein's client list. You confirmed that it exists. Attorney General Pam Bondi confirmed earlier this year that it exists. So I just want to ask you a simple question. Is Prince Andrew on Epstein's client list?
The material related to Prince Andrew has been made public.
Is Prince Andrew on the client list?
We have released the index of names
All right,
that were in Jeffrey Epstein's.
Is Donald Trump on Epstein's client list?
The index has been released, and the index will speak for
So
itself.
I'm just going to say, America, there's a huge red flag. The FBI director could not answer whether Donald Trump was on Epstein's
Gentleman's time
client
has
list.
expired.
I
Chair
yield
now
back.
recognizes the gentleman from Virginia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank the director for being here and for his work over the last several months, removing the taint of partisanship that has infected the intelligence community over the past several years under the last administration, under the last several directors, standing up for law enforcement, standing up for the brave men and women who work in your agency. But to set the record straight, we have to correct the record. And the record, early days of the first Trump administration saw a dramatic spike in news stories that contained sensitive and sometimes classified details about the FBI's bogus Russia probe, about a leak a day. It's unacceptable that senior FBI officials coordinated to leak classified information to try and harm President Trump. Documents produced to the committee in August of this year revealed that the FBI interviewed a former intelligence committee staffer who gave details on a systematic process through which leaks of classified information were affected by then Chairman, now Senator Adam Schiff. Were these findings escalated within the Bureau's chain of command, and if so, to what level?
Sorry, were the findings escalated?
Were these findings that were given to us escalated within the Bureau's chain of command, and if so, what level? Did you receive this information?
That entire matter is currently under investigation by the people at the FBI that handle leaks of classified information.
All right, it's good to know that there is an ongoing investigation. Can you tell me whether these leaks to the media compromised any ongoing FBI investigations during the Trump-Russia probe?
I can tell you, generally speaking, the leaks of classified information are detrimental to any work the FBI is doing.
Now, former Director James Comey testified before the Senate Judiciary Committee that he had never been an anonymous source, nor authorized anyone to be an anonymous source in news reports about matters relating to the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation. Was Comey's testimony true?
In reference to Director Comey, I'm very limited in what I can say because of what the current status of those matters are with the FBI and the Department of Justice. When I am able to make those public, I will.
Can you tell me if there's an ongoing investigation there?
Again, without identifying any individuals related to the information you're generally speaking about, there is an ongoing matter that has been under review by the Department and the FBI for some time.
Because we know that the documents that we received last month revealed that former Director Comey used Columbia University law professor as a conduit to leak stories to the media that contained classified information. Let me move on to the way that the FISA process was weaponized by past directors. Prior to your confirmation, you raised concerns about government misuse of FISA, including Section 702, stating that FISA was in need of major reform. Specifically, you highlighted that the FISC report that the FBI had conducted 278,000 improper searches of the FISA database. Do you remain concerned about governmental abuse of FISA in Section 702?
I'm always concerned, but what we've done since I became FBI director is implement new audit systems. We are nearing 100% review of the 702 query system that you are specifically referring to, and we've also eliminated anyone that has ever touched that database that has in any way made a mistake, whether intentional or not. And we have also identified a system in which those going forward who misuse the 702 system, they don't get 2 strikes. They get 1 and you're done.
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned you're continuing to audit because, as you know, in May, the New York Times reported you closed the FBI's Office of Internal Auditing. Can you explain why you decided to close this office?
Yeah, because under the new restructuring of the FBI, to save resources, there were 2 different places doing the exact same thing. We have a specific division dedicated to audits. I didn't need another audit system doing the audits again. And so we folded some of those folks with their expertise into our specific division and then took the rest of those folks and are moving them out across the country.
Under previous FBI leadership, FBI agents were found to have lied to the FISC. There have been hundreds of thousands of violations of the querying standards. In light of past violations, what action is the FBI taking to ensure that similar abuses do not occur in the future?
Exactly what I've outlined. You cannot have access to the 702 query system if you improperly queried that system at all at any time in your career.
Okay, at a Senate hearing 2 years ago, your predecessor, Director Wray, testified FBI had previously purchased U.S. phone geolocation data for a specific national security pilot project and further stated that the project had not been active for some time and that the FBI relies on court-authorized process to obtain location data from companies. Does the FBI purchase location data or any other data of Americans from data brokers?
I don't believe so, but I'll get back to you.
Thank you, that'd be important. I appreciate that. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Washington's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Patel, before you joined the FBI, you had very strong opinions about what the FBI was hiding regarding Jeffrey Epstein. In a September 2023 interview with Glenn Beck, you said the Black Book is under the, quote, direct control of the director of the FBI. In December 2023, you said, let us know who the pedophiles are. Even for a short time after becoming FBI director, in February of 2025, you tweeted, quote, there will be no cover-ups, no missing documents, no stone left unturned. In June, you told Joe Rogan, quote, we've reviewed all the information, we're gonna give you every single thing we have and can. But then suddenly in July, everything changed. You and Attorney General Pam Bondi released one video and said that there was nothing more to see. Your July memo says you uncovered more than 300 gigabytes of data and physical evidence, but that you had decided no further disclosure would be appropriate or warranted. That is a quote. I think what happened, Mr. Patel, is that suddenly you discovered that Donald Trump's name was all over these files, and you started a giant cover-up. So you are under oath, Mr. Patel. You just testified to Mr. Swalwell that you did not speak to the president about the Epstein files. To your knowledge, did Attorney General Pam Bondi speak to the president about what was in the Epstein files?
I can't speak for Attorney General Pam Bondi.
So to your knowledge, you don't have any information. The question was, do you have any knowledge? Do you have any knowledge?
I can't speak.
You are
for the
refusing to
Attorney
answer the
General
question. So
Pam
let me
Bondi.
tell you that the Wall Street Journal reported that in May, Bondi told Trump that he was in the Epstein files, and at the same meeting said that the DOJ did not plan to release the files. Yesterday, you testified to Senator Kennedy that there was, quote, no credible information that Epstein trafficked girls to anyone else, and that you have, quote, continuously and publicly asked the public to come forward with more information, and we'll look into it. Today, in response to Mr. Massey's question, you appear to say that the survivors were not credible. These are survivors.
That's not at all what I said.
Okay, great. I'm going to ask you this in a second, but let me tell you about
then
the
don't lie about
survivors,
me.
and let's bring them up here into the room. These are women who came to the Hill and testified that they were groomed and raped at the age of 14 and 16 years old, and they called to meet with the president and to meet with the FBI and to have people investigate their claims. Some of them have never testified before. If you are so interested in getting the public to submit any information, why have you not met with them? You said you haven't met with them. Have you met with them? I'll give you one more chance.
My job as the FBI director is to
Is
invite
the
all
answer yes or
investigative
no
leads.
to whether or not you met with these women who were sexually abused and raped?
Any insinuation by you or any
What
people
is
on
the
your
an-
side that I am not manhunting child predators and sex traffickers, just look at the
Mr.
stats.
Patel,
And you talk
Mr.
about
Chairman,
cover-ups, man.
Mr. Chairman,
you
this
talk
is
about
my time,
cover-ups.
and I will take
Why-
as much time as I
Where were
want.
you during the
Instruct
Obama
the
and
witness,
Biden
Mr.
administrations
Chairman.
when these so-called
Instruct the
cover-ups were
witness.
going on?
Mr.
Why didn't
Chairman.
anyone in those administrations talk to any of these
Mr.
purported
Chairman.
witnesses?
Let's
I
get
have
some regular
welcomed
order, Mr.
every
Chairman.
single person to provide credible information.
Time belongs to the gentlelady from Washington.
And I'm
but
gonna
when you-
take
when
another
you
couple
accuse
of
the
minutes.
witness of something, he's allowed to respond. That's how it works. You say
Listen,
something,
he didn't
you say
even,
something,
excuse
he's
me,
allowed to
Mr. Chairman, you have
respond.
Point
always
of order.
been fair, but this
And
is
I'm
not
being
fair.
fair, and you will get
No,
your-
this
you will
is
get your
my
time.
and he
You will give the
said
gentlelady
that the
a few
witnesses
additional
were not credible.
seconds of time.
I'm going to get an additional minute of time because
No,
that's
you'll
how
get
much
what,
time
you
he
won't get a
took.
minute, you'll get some seconds, what we think is under 5 minutes. You don't get to demand how
Mr.
much time you
Patel.
get. That's not how it works.
Mr. Patel, are the victims of the Jeffrey Epstein horrific trafficking ring, are they credible?
Any person with information about ongoing
I
sexual
didn't.
trafficking.
I'm asking you if they're credible.
Ma'am, I'm
Are they
commenting on the
credible?
evidence we have.
But
And we have routinely asked for people to come forward with more evidence, and we will look at
Mr.
it. And the evidence that we have was the same evidence that the Biden and
Patel,
Obama Justice Departments
Mr.
had.
Patel,
And they
this is
determined, not
new.
me, they determined that that
Chairman,
information was not
Mr.
credible.
Chairman, he's not letting me even ask my questions.
You
This is
ask the
ridiculous.
questions, he gives an answer. You may not like what he says,
No,
but that
I'm
doesn't mean you get to
asking- he's not
interrupt
answering
him.
my question.
Mr. Chairman,
have
could we
an-
restore the gentlelady 45 seconds so she
We
can
will give
complete
her
her question?
additional 30 seconds, which is what I said
I'm
earlier.
going to keep taking my time because
you'll take
here's
the time
thing.
that you get. You get
are
30
not
seconds.
answering the question. The question
I
is,
have. You just don't like the
these
answer.
are these women credible? It's a yes or no answer.
I have answered the question.
Well,
and I
what is
keep
the
telling
answer?
you, I'm the only FBI director that has welcomed new information in this
Okay.
case. This
You're not-
administration is the only one that has welcomed any new information in this
Is there
case.
a yes or no to whether
Present
the
new
victims
credible
are
information.
credible?
Present new
Are
information.
the victims credible
The victims-
or not?
I'll tell you what happened in the last Trump
Are they
administration.
credible or not? You can't even
Victims
say.
credibly came forward, and you know what happened? President Trump authorized the indictments of
President
Jeffrey
Trump
Epstein,
called
not
them
Biden,
a hoax.
not Obama,
President Trump
no one
called
else.
the entire thing a Democratic hoax. So I would like to ask
The
you
gentlelady's
if
time has
you
expired.
will
I gave her the
meet-
additional
if
45
you-
seconds she
if you
requested.
will
The
meet-
gentlelady yields back. The gentleman from
Mr.
New
Chairman,
Jersey is
I would like
recognized
to
for his
ask if
5
you would
minutes.
meet with the women who were sexually
time does not belong-
abused and raped and groomed
time does
at
not
the
belong
ages
to the
of
gentlelady from
14
Washington.
and
The time now
16
belongs-
years old. Are
the
you
time-
going to cover up?
No, I'm
Are
not
you
gonna-
going to
I'm
continue
gonna
to
recognize
cover
the
up
gentleman
for
from
the
New Jersey
rich
for
and
his 5 minutes.
powerful men, including those that might be on this committee?
I can yell
too, Mr. Chairman, but I don't want to yell above this.
The time belongs to the gentleman from New Jersey. I appreciate the gentlelady yielding back.
Are you going to allow them to testify, Mr. Patel?
Go ahead.
Will you allow them to testify to you,
Mr. Patel? Mr. Patel, thank you for being here. I know it's been an interesting and difficult 2 days. And I wasn't going to talk about the Epstein thing because there's a lot of other issues that affect the FBI, but I have to say a few words. I've sat here, I've listened to this, I've watched it, and you know, my Democratic colleagues are so concerned now, Mr. Patel, all of a sudden. Where were they last year? Where were they the year before? Where were they the year before that? Where was the last president in any of this? All I know, the only thing I see is a single letter from the ranking member that was sent in 2019 that he didn't like the plea deal, and some people signed on to that. Most of the truth, the real truth, let's be honest, let's be intellectually honest. The real truth is we didn't hear from them at all. Anybody of them. Hardly any of them ever mentioned it. Some of them didn't mention it at all until the beginning of this year. Earlier in the year it started. Not one Democrat asked Director Wray. We all remember Director Wray was here. Not once, not twice, multiple times. Nobody asked Director Wray about Epstein before this committee. Nobody was that concerned. Where was the concern for the victims then? Where was the moral righteousness then? Where was the outrage then? Where was the sense of duty then? Where was the desire for accountability then? Where was the urgency for justice then? Most of all, where the hell was the integrity then? You know what the truth is. Let's just say it, man. Tell the truth time. The truth is, it's politically useful for them to try to do this now, even though they didn't give a damn about it in the past. And you know what? That's an insult to the victims, and that's an insult to America. Continue to do the work you're doing. Continue to uncover what needs to be uncovered. One real quick thing before I say anything to 9/11. We know that was mishandled by the past director and by the past FBIs. There are family members here. There are family members who are concerned. God Almighty, we want to get to the truth of that. I ask you, please, to meet with them, to talk to them, and to investigate this with truth. You know, in the Biden administration, we went through a very dark and difficult period of time. The FBI trust was broken with the people. Catholics were, this is the stuff we've been talking about, were labeled radical threats for praying in their churches with their rosaries. Parents at school boards were called terrorists for standing up for their children. Hindu holy men in New Jersey. We have the largest Hindu temple in the world. They were attacked. They were put up against the wall with guns to their heads. So it isn't just a Catholic or Christian thing. American Jews were targeted in colleges and universities, and a lot of folks in the FBI, and the past FBI, not this one, didn't give a damn. We can't go back to targeting religion. We can't go back to silencing free speech. The Biden administration did that. So I got questions for you. Hopefully thoughtful questions that you can answer for us in a thoughtful way. How is this FBI now, under your leadership, how are we restoring trust for Catholics, for Hindus, for Jews, for parents, for all the other, for just American people that were targeted by FISA because they had a different viewpoint? How are we restoring that trust in the FBI?
Multiple ways, sir. One, and maybe most importantly, is through transparency and providing the American public with the material so they can see, read it themselves as to what the abuses were in the past, whether it relates to the Catholic memo or the Hindu incident you talked about at the largest temple in North America. Any institution of faith and any member of faith will not be investigated by this FBI because they are men and women of faith ever, period.
And nor should they. Nor should they. I don't mean to interrupt you, but my God, of all the amendments to the freedom of speech, freedom to believe in what you want to believe in, I know you're standing up for that. Continue. I'm sorry.
No, that's it. Sorry.
Okay. The Richmond memo was driven by a reliance on sources. The Southern Poverty Law Center, you know, the words sound nice, but the organization's not so nice. And we've seen the Anti-Defamation League distort data that counts as violence. Have you been able to identify and eliminate these kinds of partisan sources? We welcome all sources, but we want objectivity and neutrality and decency in the way we report all this. Have you been able to uncover any information there? How do we make sure our sources are good in the future?
We have reviewed the source processes that infiltrate any any institutions of faith, and they will no longer be going into institutions of faith. They will be directed towards criminal activity and protecting the homeland, the two most important missions the FBI has, and that's what we're going to continue to do.
Good. And I'll say this, there was a lot of bull today, a lot of you know what, and I'm not going to say it because I respect the institution so much going on around here. Continue to do the work of the people. You are here for that reason. The administration is here for that reason. It was weaponized and politicized, the FBI, in the past. I hope to God we never, ever see that again. One of the darkest parts of American history. Thank you, Mr. Patel. I yield back.
Mr. Chairman, I have a unanimous consent.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from New York is recognized for UC.
I would like to introduce a CNN article that explains how an alleged top leader of the MS-13 gang was dismissed. His case was dismissed in Brooklyn so that he could be deported back to El Salvador, even though he was charged with murder.
Without objection.
Mr. Chairman, I have some unanimous consent
The lady from
requests.
Washington is recognized.
I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record an article titled "Justice Department Told Trump in May That His Name is Among Many in the Epstein Files."
Without objection.
I have another one that is a July 2025 article by the New York Times entitled "How a Frantic Scouring of the Epstein Files Consumed the Justice Department," stating that DOJ and FBI employees reviewing the Epstein Files were instructed to flag any mentions of Trump and other celebrities.
Without objection.
And I have another unanimous consent request to enter into the record an August 2025 article by The Guardian entitled "Ghislaine Maxwell Hinted at Epstein's Ties to Trump Officials. Why Wasn't She Pressed for Names?" stating that Maxwell told Deputy U.S. Attorney Todd Blanche that some of the, quote, cast of characters around Epstein are in Trump's cabinet.
Without objection. Chair now recognizes the gentlelady from Pennsylvania.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Patel, for coming before us to testify today. I am concerned by your repeated claims that you're not able to disclose anything further about the Epstein investigation and files, and that there's no evidence of a broader conspiracy or other people who should be charged, because the American people aren't buying that you've been transparent or that there's nothing further to be seen. In your exchange with my colleague, Mr. Roy, you reiterated something that I heard you say yesterday in your Senate testimony, and that is, under your direction, the FBI will always follow the money. Is that right?
The money, did you say? Yes.
Yes, you said you'll follow the money. That's great. And just now you said you welcome the opportunity to investigate new evidence. So there has been significant recent reporting just in the last couple of weeks that after Jeffrey Epstein was arrested, 4 major banks flagged more than $1.5 billion in suspicious transactions connected to him that suggested a massive conspiracy related to his child sex trafficking activities. Director Patel, has the FBI reviewed the $1.5 billion in suspicious bank transactions flagged to the government relating to Epstein and his co-conspirators?
I know the FBI has reviewed numerous SARs. I don't know the totality of that number.
Okay, can you provide us with that number?
I'll get back to you.
Okay. And have you initiated any new investigation of those bank transactions since, say, September 8th, when the new reporting came out?
I'll check with the Treasury Department because they're the lead on that.
Okay, so Director Patel, how many individuals or entities has the FBI interviewed, subpoenaed, or compelled to testify? Can you give us those numbers with respect to these bank transactions?
Not off the top of my head. I'll have to work with Treasury.
Okay. We're concerned, you see, because you say you're going after child predators, but
we are.
Obviously this is how you follow the money, is if you follow the bank transactions that apparently enabled the child sex trafficking. Would you agree?
It's one of the valuable investigative tools is to follow the money.
Okay. Have Jeffrey Epstein's victims have asked us to ask you whether or not you've investigated Epstein's lawyers, the lawyers who facilitated those payments. Have you subpoenaed or questioned any of those lawyers?
So in 2018 and 19, what I recollect is many, if not every one of those lawyers was part of the investigation.
But you weren't there at that time, right?
I wasn't there.
Okay. So can you get us the names and the numbers of who was investigated then with respect to those lawyers?
As long as I'm allowed to release it, absolutely.
Okay, well, if we provide you with subpoenas, I assume you can release it. Is that right?
We have a current subpoena, and we're working with Congress to provide it.
You've said that the Acosta investigation had an original sin. What do you mean by that?
Basically, if you're looking at an actual pedophile ring, what you should not do is limit the time frame in which you're legally able to collect information. So search warrants that Mr. Acosta utilized in 2006 and 7 leading to the 2008 plea agreement had a very specific narrow window of years, I think 3 or 4 years. And so information pursuant to legal process wasn't collected for 10 years or 15 years or 20 years. It also, subpoenas were not sent out to hundreds of witnesses at the time, hundreds of victims at the time. None of that was done. None of these people were put in grand juries. And so the totality of information from the jump, instead of being this big, was like this. And that, in my opinion, is not how you run an investigation if you're trying to break a sex trafficking ring.
So you're now in charge of the FBI. Why haven't you done that investigation?
Great question, and here's the answer. Simply because I am not able to go back 20 years and collect information that the courts had decided was already subject to search warrants. They have said this wasn't the investigation. There's a non-prosecution agreement out of that plea, and when the case was reopened, and this is where it comes into play, when the case was reopened in 2018 and 2019, the search warrants, again, were limited to the conduct of Jeffrey Epstein. Now, whether that's right or wrong, that's a different discussion, but I'm telling you that's the information we
I think
reviewed.
that is a different discussion, and I think the discussion we'd like to have today is why you aren't following the money with respect to the broader conspiracy that it has been reported in the New York Times and elsewhere, and that if you really want to attack the issue, if you wanted to attack the issue, if you wanted to get to the bottom of it, if you wanted to disclose what really was involved in the Epstein files, the Epstein cover-up, that you would be taking very different actions that you are today. I do want to seek unanimous consent to enter into the record the New York Times September 8th, 2025 article, How J.P. Morgan Enabled the Crimes of Jeffrey Epstein.
Without objection.
And also an article dated July 17th, 2025, in the Epstein case, Follow the Money.
Without objection.
Okay, thank you.
Gentlelady yields back.
Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Thank you much. Pursuant to Clause 2K6 of Rule 11, I move that the committee subpoena the CEOs of 4 banks, J.P. Morgan, that's Jamie Dimon, Bank of New York Mellon, Robin Vince, Bank of America, Brian Moynihan, and Deutsche Bank, Christian Sowing, in order to get the suspicious transaction reports. These 4 banks have flagged to the government $1.5 billion in suspicious transactions related to the sex trafficking crimes and conspiracy of Epstein, Maxwell, and all of their collaborators. And as you know, Mr. Chairman, we got the SARS reports for Hunter Biden totaling around $20 million. And so these $1.5 billion in SARS reports we should get, especially since the director doesn't seem to be forthcoming. And I request that we do this immediately.
I think the director's been very forthcoming. We will hold any motion to subpoena in abeyance until the conclusion of the hearing. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Texas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Director Patel, for being here. It is quite clear that certain members of this committee, they want their 15 seconds on TV, stamping and coming. Maybe it's for fundraising. Maybe they're struggling in their district. They need a little bump. But they turn a committee into a clown show, and that's what we're seeing. You're being unjustly attacked today. I watched the Senate hearings yesterday. You were attacked there. We know there's an agenda. There's always an agenda. It's the same characters with the same personalities, the same objective, and that is destroy the mega movement. You're being attacked, Director, is because you're effective. You highlighted what you've been doing in D.C. with the president in reducing violent crime. You're very effective. Another individual that was very effective with meaningful debate and dialogue was Charlie Kirk. And they killed him for it. Charlie Kirk was a man of faith. First and foremost, he loved his Lord Jesus. He loved his family. Beautiful wife, beautiful children. Just a remarkable, honorable man that was silenced with this assassin's bullet. I would say if Charlie Kirk lived in the biblical times, he'd have been the 13th disciple. He'd have been the 13th disciple. We have a new committee, if you're not aware, a new select committee regarding January 6th. I'm honored to be on that committee. I'm looking forward to working with other members to expose truth, questioning federal agencies that were involved on January 6th, like the FBI, played a role, but we don't really know, Director, to what extent. We don't know. The January 6th sham committee was not formed by Nancy Pelosi to seek truth. It was nothing about getting to the truth about January 6th. Their sole mission was to damage Donald J. Trump and end his political career. And everybody knows it. That's what the purpose was. You know what's nice? So I kind of get to ask the question, though. How did that work out for you? Donald J. Trump is back in the White House, and America loves him. I spent 30 years in law enforcement, retired sheriff from a large county in the great state of Texas. I have seen, Director, I've seen more enthusiasm and support for law enforcement today because of what you and Donald Trump have done over the last 8 months to protect the American people. The American people couldn't count on their government to protect them. Crime is rampant. And now we have a president and an administration that puts the American people and their safety first. It's interesting, a few minutes ago, a classmate reached out to me and sent me I told him, I said, yes, we got Director Patel in front of our committee today. And Andy Kane wanted me to tell you, he said, quote, tell him we love him. Tell him we love him and all the brave warriors exposing the deep state. Kash, you're a great American, sir. You're a great American. Your work as the director of the FBI is commendable. It's commendable. And I want to thank you, sir. Thank you for your service. Keep up the good fight, brother. Don't let him tear you down. Keep up that good fight. You have it in you. With that, sir, I yield back.
Gentleman yield to me. Director Patel, there were 26, the gentleman mentioned the select committee, there were 26 confidential human sources at the Capitol on January 6, 2021. 4 entered the Capitol and thereby broke the law. Do you know if those individuals were being paid by the Ray FBI?
So we've provided 600 pages of documents to this committee alone regarding January 6th. That's 600 pages more than any of my predecessors.
Yep.
Generally speaking, confidential human sources are always paid by the FBI. That's how it works. I can't speak to the specifics on each one and how much they make.
And we appreciate it. We've reviewed some of that material, and you've given us a lot of material that we didn't get from Director Ray. That specific question, I think, is important to the American people. Were people who were confidential human sources of the FBI who broke the law, one was recommended for prosecution, my understanding is, by the information we've received from you. Were they actually paid by the very taxpayers who may have got charged with the same offense? I think that's important for us to understand.
I'll get back to you on that.
Thank you. Chair now recognizes the gentleman from California.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Welcome, Director Patel. I want to focus a little bit on domestic terrorism. We have a graph here, data up to 2021, but as you can tell, domestic terrorism is on the rise. Nation, our citizens under threat. We saw the assassination of Charlie Kirk, 2 assassination attempts on the president, school shooting, Minnesota last month, and closer to home, just a couple of days ago, Huntington Beach, peaceful vigil for Charlie Clark, infiltrated by neo-Nazis who essentially made the local individuals attending that event fear for their safety. All of us know that a lot of these domestic attacks are by lone wolves, but yet they do leave clues, social media or elsewhere. Director Patel, you're it. You're the thin blue line. The FBI, your job to protect our citizens back home from those that would harm us. You have to find the needle in the haystack. Takes a lot of work, a lot of resources. Talking to my local sheriff this morning, who said they're concerned. Federal cuts to local grants that help them do the job. Then, of course, let's not forget about other threats that are coming before us, like high-tech fraud. Local senior recently was talking to me about a text she had gotten, a demand by the IRS to send a payment immediately, or the IRS agents were on their way to arrest this individual. Pretty gutsy stuff by folks probably from Europe, North Korea, Russia, China, people, okay, going after those precious savings our senior citizens rely on. Yet the president's proposing a budget cut of $500 million or more to your organization, the FBI. You've said that that'll essentially equate to about 1,300 less jobs at the FBI. So I'm going to ask you essentially, what is it that we can do to help you do your job? Little concerned. Friday Night Lights. One of the events I love to do on Friday nights, go to the local high school football game. Sit there at the stadium and you always say, what if? What if? You're the thin blue line. Can you do your job cutting $500 million from your budget?
Thank you, sir. I think we are doing our job, and the distinction is with the budget that we have, we are flexing more resources to the field. California is receiving the largest FBI plus-up of any state in the union due to that plus-up. They're not getting a reduction. No state is getting a reduction. Every state is getting a plus-up. And so I'm utilizing the money that we have to first plus it up. And the empty vacancies that we have, those haven't been filled in years, not under my leadership.
Here's my concern. You're going to do well, you're doing more with less, is what you're saying. Yet we're about to vote on a budget that has $88 million more to protect members of Congress, the executive branch, and the Supreme Court. There's a contradiction here. Back on Main Street, we're saying you can do more with less, you can protect them with less money, yet here in Washington, we're saying we need more money to protect members of Congress. It's a little contradiction here. Or maybe, sir, you ought to talk to leadership about coming in with your management style to protect the Supreme Court, Congress, and the administration. Otherwise, it's essentially a hypocritical situation. We need more protection, yet folks on Main Street can do with less.
My concern is folks on Main Street. We also were, I think we received over $300 million in the big, beautiful bill, and we're also receiving pots of money from our interagency, so this sort of $500 million cut isn't entirely accurate.
You're still getting cut $200 million plus. You're still moving your agents to do ICE work, so you are leaving a lot of bases uncovered. And I'm not going to be argumentative with you, Director Patel. I'm just saying, if that thin blue line does not hold, people on Main Street will pay the price.
I agree with you, sir.
And I just look forward to working with you, because I am very concerned that these kinds of budget cuts are short-sighted, especially when my local sheriff calls me and says, we need more support, and we're looking at budget cuts.
I'll work with you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I yield time.
Mr. Chairman, I have another unanimous consent request.
The gentleman yields back. The gentleman from New York is recognized for unanimous consent.
I seek to introduce a December 2024 OIG report from the Department of Justice, which confirms the conclusion of the Bill Barr Justice Department that the so-called whistleblower, a disgruntled former employee of the Intelligence Committee, was not a credible witness, and there were no further actions taken.
Without objection.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to submit some items for the record.
You bet. Gentleman from California.
First one, Trump's deportation diverts FBI agents off child predator cases. Second one, FBI director backtracks on administration's proposed budget cuts. And number three, Trump administration says 70% of ICE detainees do not have criminal convictions.
Without objection. Gentleman from Texas is recognized.
Thank you. Director, earlier this year, the committee learned of new documents tied to the Crossfire Hurricane investigation and the Russia collusion hoax against President Trump. Your efforts in declassifying key documents tied to this investigation allowed the committee to acquire thousands of pages that it did not have previously. Did any of your predecessors make any effort to declassify these documents?
Not to the extent we have.
Did any of your predecessors share or leak any details that were classified at the time?
There are ongoing leak investigations across the board at the Bureau related to this.
I believe one of those is Mr. Comey, and I thank you for continuing that investigation. Among the declassified documents are the Durham report annex, the Crossfire binder, and the Nellie Orr criminal referral. Could you summarize for those watching what we know about the Russia collusion hoax so far?
Well, sir, I think the record will speak that the Russia collusion matter was perpetrated by a political party to go overseas and obtain information from a foreign intelligence asset, only to have that information, which was demonstrably false, turned over to the FBI, who walked into a federal FISA secret court and asked for a secret surveillance court order and lied to the federal court, and we know that because someone was convicted of it, and only to surveil the political opponent. So that is a massive scandal. We helped expose it. And in terms of the pages of productions, I provided 1,400 pages of production related to Crossfire Hurricane, and my predecessors have provided 0.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate your courage and commitment to declassifying these important documents for our review, and hope that you'll continue with this commitment. Can we expect to see more declassification efforts regarding the Crossfire Hurricane and Russia collusion hoax?
Yes.
Thank you. I yield the remaining balance of my time to Chairman Jordan.
Oh, I thank the gentleman for yielding. And Director, that's when it all started, right? The whole Russia, that's when it all began. And then it was Mueller, then it was impeachment, then it was Jack Smith and Fonnie Willis and Alvin Bragg and you name it. But it all started then. And that's why I think the gentleman from Texas wants to make sure we get all the information there. And I want to go back to when it was changed. We talked about this earlier. I just want to read to you what the CIA officer said to the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, quote, Brennan refused to remove the dossier, and when confronted with the dossier's main flaws, he responded, yes, but doesn't it ring true? So that's what he initially said. And then when he was talking to this committee, he said the CIA was very much opposed to having any reference or inclusion of the Steele dossier in the intelligence community assessment. So on one hand, you got a witness who was there who said he refused to remove it even though he knew it was garbage. And then he's, on the other hand, telling the committee, no, we didn't want anything to do with it. It shouldn't have been a part of the intelligence community assessment, which we know it was. You know it was. You found that. Those are two entirely different stories. I think Mr. Brennan has some explaining to do, frankly, what happened there. And I think you said earlier that this whole thing, and I think you said to Mr. Gooden, this whole thing is being looked at as part of this grand conspiracy to undermine the president, whether it's Comey, Brennan, Clapper, former head of the Intelligence Committee, now senator from, whoever it is, that's all being looked at. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
Well, we appreciate that. And part of what's also being looked at, and I think the gentleman from Wisconsin brought this up earlier, what is a burn bag for, by the way?
Generally speaking, the intelligence community obviously utilizes and possesses classified documents, but drafts of those classified documents and even ultimate finished products of those classified documents have to be recorded and or discarded. And if they are discarded, the only way we do that, the hard copies, is we literally put them in burn bags that are identified specifically for that purpose, and there is a very exact courier system in which those burn bags are obtained and the material inside is destroyed.
So it's to get rid of the material, right?
Yes, sir.
And it looks like the annex that Mr. Durham in his investigation had was put into a burn bag by your predecessor, I assume, to be destroyed. Is that accurate?
Without getting into the stylization of the evidence, anything that's put in a burn bag is for purposes of destruction.
Do you find that interesting that the Durham annex was placed in a burn bag, that you would discover that when you took over as the head of the FBI?
We found a lot of information in a lot of burn bags.
Well, we appreciate you finding that. We'd like to know a little bit more about that, and we look forward to that information coming forward. And I appreciate the gentleman yielding. With that, we now recognize the gentleman from Colorado.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for holding this hearing. Thank you, Director Patel, for being here today. I have a couple of questions regarding a terrible shooting that occurred in Colorado, which is a state, as you may know, that I represent. You've testified previously about, I think, what you would describe as your efforts to provide more information regarding the investigation with respect to the horrific assassination of Mr. Kirk. And so, in that same vein, I'm hoping you can provide this committee and my constituents in Colorado with some clarity.
Absolutely.
I think, as my colleagues know, in Evergreen, Colorado, Jefferson County, a county that I proudly represent, at Evergreen High School, a shooter ultimately injured. 2 students were praying for their swift recovery. There's an article here from Colorado Public Radio. The title is, quote, FBI was already investigating an account that may have been linked to the Evergreen shooter. You're familiar with the circumstances generally, Director, regarding this terrible tragedy.
Yes.
So my understanding from the public reporting is that an organization reported to the FBI in July of this year regarding, just reading here from the article, that the FBI opened an assessment into a social media account user whose identity was unknown and who was discussing the planning of a mass shooting with threats nonspecific in nature. This is the FBI's statement to the press. And that the FBI continued to work this assessment investigation to identify the name and location of the user up until September 10th, 2025, which was the day of the tragedy. Can you provide us some clarity on what were the impediments to finding, the account user, and maybe describe in greater detail the FBI's work in that regard?
Generally speaking, yes, because I know even though the shooter's deceased, the investigation we're not done.
Sure.
And so the impediments to finding these individuals, and you highlight a great point. We had 2 huge tragedies in the span of days in this country. The school shooting in Evergreen, Colorado being one of them. And proactively going out onto these social media platforms, which are so large, is our biggest impediment. And we need to rely on the service providers. There's actual legislation, I can't remember the name of it, that's up for renewal, which will, and I think at the end of the month, which gives service providers the ability to report that information in from their end without liability. We need that to continue, because while the FBI has so many people and the police are great at doing it, there's just too many platforms to cover down on.
Well, I appreciate that, Director Patel, and I think we're certainly, I'm interested in continuing this conversation, because I think the reporting suggests that there's a pattern, and that ultimately we want to make sure that law enforcement is able to prevent this kind of tragedy from happening in the future. I have a question. It's not meant as a gotcha question, so it just frame it there. But it is in regards to some reporting around a periodic transaction report that you had filed earlier, this year. So this is in July, pursuant to the ethical obligations as a senior executive official. You remember filing that in July?
Yes.
Yeah, so in that report, as best as I can surmise, you disclosed that you divested, $100,000 or more in a variety of different stocks, which I presume was pursuant to the ethics agreement that you negotiated with the Department of Justice. In that same report, there's a disclosure regarding purchases of 2 different transactions. So between $15,000 to $50,000 in a national coffee house chain, and between $50,000 to $100,000 in a semiconductor company on May 9th and May 12th. Are those transactions that you're doing personally, or are these through a stockbroker, or are these transactions that you're handling yourself?
So how they happen is I submit proposals under DOJ guidance to say, hey, I would like to trade this or that, and they run their review, and the FBI runs a review, and then they come back and say yes or no, and then I make the transaction.
Is there a reason that you decided to make the purchases into those 2 companies?
Generally speaking, before I got this job, I was, trading stocks, but not a lot like most people, and I just follow certain industries, and I thought they would be a good investment.
So the reason why I ask, right, because you had divested in other companies, and I presume that wasn't because there were actual conflicts. It's just that you wanted to avoid an appearance of impropriety.
It was both.
Both, but not all of the companies were conflicts.
Whatever they make
divested from.
I don't make the call, they make the call.
Sure.
Yeah.
I guess my point would be, the reason why I ask is, why I said it's not a gotcha question, I have for years led an effort here in Congress to try to ban members of Congress, senior executive officials, from trading stocks. And it's bipartisan in nature. We're working really hard to get that done, Republicans and Democrats. And you can understand, I think, given your role, given the nature of the position that you hold as the leader of the largest law enforcement agency in our country, that divesting entirely, not doing day trading now, I think would be something that would be in the interest of the American people. So I just would hope you would consider that, and that moving forward, that perhaps not purchasing stocks in individual companies, I would think would be something that would be worth pursuing.
Gentleman's time is...
I'm happy to give the witness an opportunity to answer.
Thank you. I'll work with you on it.
Gentleman from Alabama is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Director Patel, for being here today. Newly declassified documents confirm that the intelligence community under President Barack Obama knowingly relied on unverified and fraudulent evidence to manufacture a false claim that Russia, in fact, meddled in the 2016 election. Is there more to be done to uncover the depths and origins of the Russian collusion hoax?
There is, and we're doing it.
Why should Americans still care about that, Director Patel?
Everybody wants to talk about a weaponized bureaucracy. And when we put out the facts about a weaponized bureaucracy, not because I said so, but because we found the FISA documents, because we found the 302s and the 1023s, then it becomes a political football. My job is to continue to put out that information and let the American public read it for themselves when I'm lawfully able to do so. And that's been my commitment on any subject, Russiagate or otherwise. Wherever the law allows me to do it, I will do it.
You know, when I first came in 2020, the number one concern as I was doing town halls was the weaponization of the government against the American citizen. And so are there things that you're doing, structural reforms that implementing so that the FBI cannot be weaponized again, whether it's against President Trump or future elected presidents?
It shouldn't be weaponized against anyone. And the structural reform is simple. If you're going to go after a political individual or someone seeking political office, there has to be a grounded basis in law and fact to open up a criminal investigation. And if there's not, the investigation isn't even opened. And I've also gone back and reviewed other cases that were opened in prior administrations related to public officials. And we've closed a number of them because we felt that some of these actions were weaponized on either side of the aisle. I felt it wholly inappropriate for the FBI to be playing umpire and referee amongst these decision makers when there was no factual or legal basis to continue those investigations, so I shut them down.
And I think that's so desperately needed because we need to restore trust in law enforcement and certainly in the DOJ and the FBI so that the American people don't fear the very government that's supposed to protect them. And so thank you for doing that. On August 11th, you released to the committee documents concerning leak investigations that began in 2017. Do you believe these leaks were accidental or were they intentional in order to influence public opinion against President Trump?
When I can publicly make a final decision on that, either through a recommendation of charging that the DOJ makes or findings that I have, I'm able to do so, but they're still not complete.
Why did the FBI under Director Comey want to undermine the Trump administration?
I don't know. You'll have to ask him.
Think it might have been political? How will Director Comey be held accountable for his leaks and classified information concerning the Russian collusion hoax?
Well, anyone. Doesn't matter what you did before or what seat you were in. If you leak classified information, that's illegal. And we will investigate it fully. And if we can bring enough evidence to recommend charges to the Department of Justice, we will. But as you know, in these leak investigations, it's very difficult to produce the information necessary. We know leaks happen. They literally happen every week. It's one of the most destructive things to this country. Media receives classified information beneficial to one side or the other. I'm a fan of none of it, and I want to shut all of it down. And we need to bring some real cases to deter individuals from doing that, and that's my focus.
What was Comey's role in creating the ICA?
You know, speaking from my memory, as the head of the FBI, he was charged under then Director Brennan, and Director Clapper and the other IC elements to come in with the NSA, CIA, FBI, and ODNI and put together a collection of information on how the information sort of surrounding Russiagate came together. So he represented the FBI in that.
Was former Director of CIA, John Brennan, he's denied that the Steele dossier was used in creating the ICA. Is that true?
Well, it's, without commenting on him, the FISA has been released, and the dossier was in the FISA. It was in 4 FISAs. So I'll let the public decide.
Well, former Director Brennan actually denied repeatedly that he pushed for the Steele dossier to be included in the ICA. Is that true?
I'll let his testimony speak for itself, but then Deputy Director Andy McCabe also testified to the House Intelligence Committee, which has now been declassified, that were there no Steele dossier, there would have been no FISA.
Well, my time's getting close, but let me tell you this, sir, and my colleague from Texas said, thank you for the job you're doing. You're making the American people